we've got a handful of advisors, which are agents, we call them advisors, that have phantom businesses at Thrive Real Estate Group. And what we mean by that is you're never going to see a logo. They don't have websites. They don't have staff. They don't have a prolific name. You're not going to Google them and find them. They're not on Yelp. You're not going to see them anywhere. Yet, they have businesses that yield in excess of $500,000, $250,000, over $1 million. There's one example of over $1 million. And that's a business. That is an absolute business.
Welcome to the Real Better Life podcast, where people that are writing stories worth telling share their knowledge, wisdom, and perspective to help you go further, faster as you move to your better life. Over to your hosts, Dave Ness and Rob Elkamer.
Welcome to episode 17 of the Real Better Life podcast. And the topic for today is running your business like a business. This is actually going to be our first two-part episode. And the first half, which we'll listen to today, is more about the theory and the mindset around why it's so important to run your business like a business, and particularly why it's such a struggle for so many people getting into the 1099 world. And then we're going to identify 8 key areas to focus on in terms of necessary skills you need to have a thriving business as an independent contractor. And then part 2, which feel free to skip ahead to that if you want more of the how-to and the action steps. That is going to be where we focus in on 3 out of these 8 key areas we identify in the first half. And these are the 3 that we see more people struggle with, and the 3 areas that Dave and I struggled with the most as we were young in our business building careers. And then real quick, as a side note, we referenced 2 books and an article in the episode today, and we'd encourage you to go get a copy of those if you haven't already read them. The first one is E-Myth by Michael Gerber. The second is The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. And the third is an article you can find online by Albert Gray entitled The Common Denominator of Success. And with that, let's dive into today's episode. Dave.
Yo.
We're back.
We are back.
The new studio. This is the virgin episode in the new studio.
I'm so excited. This studio is like 1,000 times better than the old one, mainly because, well, for our listeners right now, it's dim lighting. We have Deer Hammer, which is a single malt whiskey on the table. We also have some light charcuterie. We even have a candle.
We actually do have a charcuterie board and a candle right
I'm not sure how I feel about the candle, but the rest of it's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
We're sitting here at...
you just stay over on that side of the desk, please.
This is going to be a fun one. I hope people take something away from it and have some fun along the journey with us.
Yeah, which, by the way, check out Deer Hammer.
Yeah.
Buena Vista, Colorado.
Yep.
This is our first time having it, actually.
Colorado whiskey, and it's solid. It's got notes of all kinds of fun things. Leather, maybe a little bit of chocolate, some cherries we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we've been sitting here for like an hour talking about it prior to this whole episode, which is hilarious.
I just had my first sip. It's a winner.
It's perfect. Yeah. Well, I'll be with you right after I finish this logo stamped ice cubed old fashioned that I'm drinking.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah, it's my go-to.
What's your acronym? We haven't shared that with the audience. What's your acronym around cubes?
Oh, yeah. And I got to give credit to Jimmy, which is Tracy's husband.
James.
Jimmy. And the acronym is SRCs. We do not do SRCs in this area of our world.
And SRCs are what?
Shitty realtor cubes.
There you go.
So he gave me, actually, it was like 2 Christmases ago, he gave me a cooler full of crystal clear, ice cubes that were perfect. They're beautiful, right?
Yep.
And if you're a whiskey connoisseur and you're listening, you know that ice is big. Like you got to have the right ice, right? Because if it has air in it, it makes it cloudy, which isn't as beautiful. But more importantly, functionally, it melts faster, which means it waters down the bourbon that you're drinking.
Look at you.
And that's not good. And I actually learned all this from my pastor.
Shout out to Hidalgo.
There you go, Mikey. Yeah, he changed my life in more ways than one. So there's your lesson. You could stop the podcast here and you're welcome.
Yeah, your life is already better, which is the goal of this podcast.
Hey, it's the Better Life podcast.
Yeah, so we've moved studios. Yeah, we now have the studio hosted full-time in our Broadway office.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Previously, we were in the Cherry Creek office.
Yeah.
So
So good.
Yeah, so here we are. And the topic today is we're talking about running your business like a business, not like a hot dog stand.
That's the subtitle.
Which sadly is how most people run their business.
Yeah, totally. Particularly in real estate.
And so we're going to change that today.
Yeah, we're going to change it. And I think this is an appropriate conversation podcast for the time of year it is. Because we're in this segment of our rhythm in real estate where it's a healthy thing, it's a good thing every year, November, December, to do annual reviews, to reflect on what you want to do more of, what you want to do less of, what went well, what didn't go well, what do you want to add to the business, what needs to be left behind from the business. So it's just hopefully for you, if you're listening, a lot of introspection, a lot of reflection, a lot of internal dialogue about how you want your life, your business, your world to look different as you march into a new year. And so that's kind of, Rob and I both thought running your business like a business is an interesting topic for this time of year as hopefully everyone's thinking about those topics as we dive in. Yeah.
Beautiful. So our hope today is, we're always talking before we jump on the air about what are we hoping that people take away from this? Like, what's the goal at the end? And here is what we both came up with really quickly is we both learned as we went better and better how to run our businesses like a business, right? And I would say we're both still in the process of learning that, but
100%.
But we've gotten a lot of this stuff down that we didn't do well early on.
Yeah.
And so our hope would be that after we talk through some of the things that we're going to talk through, and not just talk about them, but actually give you some practical applications of like, hey, here's stuff that we do, and here's stuff that change things for the better within our businesses over the years, that will help you expedite your journey to getting to a point of proficiency in running your business like a business just faster than you would have otherwise.
Get further faster our brokerage is called Thrive Real Estate Group, whatever your brokerage is called.
Or you might not have a brokerage.
You might be independent or whatever it is, but or you might be
you might not be in real estate.
In a totally different industry.
Yeah.
Our industry happens to be real estate.
Which we love those Gentiles as well.
We do. It's going to be a faith-ridden podcast today. But where I was going with that is in our context, we talk about bending time.
Yes.
And that sounds okay, flowery and inflated, but you really can bend time. You really can get further faster by listening, by learning, by observing, by changing who you are, what you do, what you believe, how you see the world, and how you engage it.
Yep.
And so really that's what we're talking about today. So we're going from bourbon quickly to deeply philosophical concepts that hopefully will be impactful, right?
That's right.
We're trying to have some fun here, but we're also trying to deliver some value.
Yep.
Yeah.
So one of the comments you made as we launch into this, as we were prepping for this, as you said, I think this concept of running your business like a business is lost on a lot of people in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
So let's start there. Unpack that a little bit more.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think the concept of running a business like a business is lost. And the reason why is because our industry, real estate, is not good. It's not known for equipping and empowering people that enter into our business, nor people that have been in our business or our industry for a long time. It's not good at giving skill sets, giving context, giving tools, giving resources, giving the things that are needed in order to actually run your business like a business. You think about it, you get licensed, right? And most states have, relatively robust licensing courses. We're in Colorado, it's extremely robust, but it's mainly focused on legal. It's mainly focused on process. It's mainly focused on contracts, signatures, what you can and can't say, fair housing, all these things that are fundamentally very important, very critical, and we all need to be on the top of our game with. But when it comes to actually engaging the business, industry agnostic, topic agnostic, there are very, very, very few resources. At best, you're going to be looking at engaging a private coach of some kind, whether that be a well-known, like a Tom Ferry type of name or brand, or somebody who's maybe not well-known but delivers an amazing product to help design that, to help implement that, to help actually pursue what it looks like to run a business. I also want to say this. As you're listening to this, you might be thinking, yeah, I do. I want to grow a business. And most people, I think, if we're honest, associate businesses with logos and storefronts and websites and names and trademarks and copyrights. And maybe that's the way that it ends up. But I think for the vast majority of people, it doesn't end up that way. They have what I'm going to refer to, or what we're going to refer to as silent businesses or phantom businesses.
Mm-hmm. I like that term.
Yeah. And so, we've got a handful of advisors, which are agents, we call them advisors, that have phantom businesses at Thrive Real Estate Group.
Mm-hmm.
And what we mean by that is you're never going to see a logo. They don't have websites. They don't have staff. They don't have a prolific name. You're not going to Google them and find them. They're not on Yelp. You're not going to see them anywhere. Yet, they have businesses that yield in excess of $500,000, $250,000, over $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
There's one example of over $1 million. And that's a business. That is a absolute business. It's a real estate portfolio, it's transactions, it's a lot of different things that go into that. But this particular individual, he has built a business. We should probably have him at the podcast at some point to talk about this.
Yeah, we're overdue.
He probably doesn't even know that he has a phantom business. We just named it. But I just want to name that because I think that it can go either way. It can go in the form of, it's very prolific. Everyone knows in your community what that name is and the logo and the brand. It can also be phantom or hidden or a silent business. And either way is fine. What really matters is profit.
Yes.
At the end of the day, that's the deal. It starts with revenue, it ends with profit.
Yes. And this is a good time we wanted to get into, which I actually thought of something while you were talking about that. We wanted to get into this concept around the cash flow quadrant.
Yes.
Right. And moving from
100%.
the left to the right side of the quadrant, which real estate is a phenomenal arena to make that move. Okay. So let's come back to that for a second. But while you were talking, I was like, dude, how do we not think back to this? Because we both love this book. But as we dive into this, it's very reminiscent of the E-Myth.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And real estate.
Michael Gerber.
Yeah. Real estate tends to attract this renegade, entrepreneurial, spirited type of person who I think we could best describe as a very independent technician.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And so the beauty of those people is they know how to go out and get results, and they're really good at what they do. Right.
Yep.
And that's always what we're looking for is we're looking for culture fit, but we're looking for like-mindedness and skill set. And right, it's that super high performing independent technician. The problem though is there's no guarantee that just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you're going to be good at the business side of the business. You're good at the production, the revenue generating side of the business.
Yep.
But there's a whole other subset of skills that you have to have for your business to really thrive and succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Right. And so go back to the cash flow quadrant for a second and talk about if somebody hasn't read that book or it's been a minute since they've read that book, talk about that concept of moving from the left side to the right side and how do we do that?
Yeah. So cash flow quadrant is Robert Kiyosaki. It was frankly more profoundly impactful for me than even Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is his flagship book. And one of the reasons that, we know the name of Robert Kiyosaki, most listeners probably know that name. But Cash Flow Quadrant came, I don't know, it was a book or two after that. I think he's got like 24 books or something like that.
I think that was the second one.
Yeah, it followed, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So if you have not read it, we both highly recommend that you pick that up and read it and study it, make notes or journal on, meditate on it a little bit. But the Cash Flow Quadrant is just, it's 4 boxes on a page. And just to summarize and stay high level to not get off track here, the left side is very much about being kind of the solopreneur, right? Where everything is dependent on you. If you stop working, then there is no revenue.
That's right.
Which means there is no business.
Yeah, on that left side, the hallmark is you're trading time for money.
Yes.
You're either trading your time to an employer who pays you for your time, right? Hourly salary,
Just
however that's set up, or you're self-employed, right? But rather than working a job, you own the job.
You own the job.
But it's still time for money. Like I have to put in time to create revenue for my business.
Right.
Right. And so the beauty of real estate as a vehicle is real estate gives you some real skills in that self-employed quadrant, right? And then what you're doing is you're leveraging these systems and processes and knowledge that you're learning to create revenue. And then real estate itself is a great what's the word I'm looking for?
Facilitator.
Yeah, it's a great facilitator to take your disposable income, that extra revenue that you're generating, and to invest that into real estate assets that then produce income. And that eventually helps you move over to that right side of the quadrant, where you're putting your money to work to create more money for you in the form of passive income.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the right side of the quadrant.
That's right.
It's not dependent on you.
Yep.
And so he kind of, Kiyosaki kind of defines wealth and success in essence as it's not measured, or it shouldn't be measured in money or in dollars. It should be measured in time.
Yeah.
In other words, how long can you be away from your business and have it still be generating, revenue for you? And in real estate, of course, if you're listening to this and you're a licensed agent, you're thinking a week, right? And that's okay. Right. This isn't like an indictment.
That's right. Everybody has to start somewhere.
It is that. And what the admonition or the encouragement / challenge is to say, keep doing that. You could do that until you can be a real estate agent until you're, 60, 70, 80 years old. We have plenty of people right here in Denver that are in their more mature years that are still crushing it.
Yep.
But they don't have to. And the reason why is because they've taken their revenue. A lot of people like to call it money, but it's revenue because we're talking about running your business like a business. So let's start using that terminology.
Yeah.
They take their revenue.
Your commissions are not your income.
No.
Your commissions are your revenue.
And maybe we could pause right there for a hot second.
Let that sink in.
Your commissions are not yours.
They're your businesses.
They're your businesses.
Yep.
They are not yours. We could mic drop that and leave it right there. But if you got your mind around that one concept, all of a sudden you're thinking of revenue. Now you're starting to think like a business. When you think about splits, commissions, income, all of those terms, guaranteed you are stuck in the cul-de-sac of thinking short-term like an independent contractor, not a business owner.
Correct. Yep.
And you could almost rest assured that if that pattern of thinking continues, you're going to be doing the same thing and thinking the same way and living the same life in 30 years than you are right now.
Yeah, and that's just to harken back to Kiyosaki, one of the impactful parts about the left side of the quadrant is it's this constant battle of either I don't have enough time or I don't have enough money.
Yeah.
Right? If I want a lot of money, I don't have a lot of time. If I want a lot of time, I don't have a lot of money.
Right.
And so to make that move, you have to invest your time into either building systems that produce income even when you're not working, or you have to invest that time to create, finances, assets that go to work and create money for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. And the way he describes that is not like, oh yeah, I have a rental property or two. It's like, no, it's on a much larger, more massive scale than that.
Yes, 100%.
Right? But, to this whole point, our encouragement to anybody who's listening is whether you're in the real estate industry or not, like whatever you're doing, have this intent. Like, this is what I would want for my kids. 20 years from now. Is that they've learned this principle of, hey, don't get stuck in this trap of trading your time for your money. Invest your time into systems or assets that are ultimately going to help produce income even when you're not there.
Yeah.
Right. And that may sound selfish or greedy. It's not. I'm a big believer that if you can do that and you can start to earn your time back, you can invest that time into a calling, a purpose, a passion project, where a lot of people are stuck like, well, I'd really like to be doing other things, but I can't because I have to make money. Yeah.
And we talked about that on a podcast, one of our episodes, I think it was, 4 or 5 episodes ago, where we kind of made this, profound discovery / statement on the episode saying, if you're not engaging in your highest value, you're stealing from the world. And it's heavy. It's like, well, geez. And so when you talk about having more time and having your money work for you, whether that's through real estate investing or some other type of investing, and we think about why, the why behind that, not to get off track, but the why behind that is so that you can be freed up to give what your unique ability is.
Your unique contribution to the world.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. So these principles that we're going to talk about, these actionable steps in running your business like a business, what we don't want it to be is preachy.
Yeah.
Right. Where I think if I had listened to this 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm doing so many things wrong. And I would have felt guilty and I really should do this stuff. And we don't want it to come across that way. We want it to come across as like, hey, here's some really practical tips that we've learned along the way that can help you run your business more efficiently so that you can accelerate, right? Go further faster as you move from that left side to the right side of the quadrant.
Yep.
So you're more freed up to unleash your gifts to the world.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Because that's
whatever that looks like for each individual person that's listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, I think at Thrive, at our little ecosystem, we would call that the better life.
Yeah.
That's what we would call it. It's better for the world. It's better for the community. It's better for you. It's better for your family. Yeah. So I think, kind of moving from that concept of just naming that, hey, our industry in general, real estate, is not great at equipping and empowering people to run businesses like businesses in this cash flow quadrant. Looking at that and looking at, or transitioning rather to, what is it that, what path are we on? And so Rob and I kind of unpack this a little bit and whiteboarded it as it were to go, well, what path are we on? Just high level. Maybe you kind of relate to this a little bit, but I think we're all on this path. We have to start in our real estate careers or whatever career you're in. You have to start with industry knowledge. In our world, you have to know contracts, you have to know process, you have to know legal, you have to know, all the way down to like how to docu-sign contracts and like how to explain them and just the industry lingo, the vocabulary, the process, like that is bedrock. That's like fundamental. And if you're listening to this, you're probably like, yeah, get on with it. But I just want, we want to name that. It has to start there. I think the next layer is you have to have, and this is, I'm going to couch this, this is industry agnostic. You have to have sales acumen.
Yes.
And we should pause there for a hot second because I think a lot of people are like, oh, here we go, sales this, sales that. But hey, the world works in sales.
Yep.
Period. And if you're thinking, well, I haven't had a lot of good experiences with salespeople. Well, guess what? Me neither. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being able to relate, build trust, build rapport quickly.
Gain influence with people.
Yep. Understand where someone's coming from, listen, not talk, but actually listen, absorb, process, and deliver something that someone actually wants and needs.
Yep.
Something that somebody wants and needs, and you're able to deliver it. To us, that's selling. If you're doing anything other than that, it's probably slickster, scam, whatever. So when we say sales acumen, we mean in your particular industry and in ours, real estate, you have to be able to do those things. You can't move beyond what this path is, and we have two other things we need to talk about, but you can't move beyond sales acumen until you master that.
Right. Yeah, in its simplest form, like we're going to go through these 8 different things, and the very first thing is any successful business needs a good sales process.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we talk about industry knowledge, it's like you have to know your product, you have to know your industry, you have to be a subject matter expert at whatever it is you're doing.
Subject matter expert, yeah.
And then the sales acumen is really like your people knowledge, right? So when you can put together like people knowledge of like, how do I connect with people? How do I influence them? Why do people do the things they do? How do they work? How do they think? Right. And you can combine those two things. Well, then you can make sales. And if you can make sales, you can generate revenue. And if you can generate revenue, now we have a business.
You have a blueprint of a business at least.
But these other 7 things we're going to talk about, they're literally worthless if you don't have revenue.
It doesn't matter.
Like the business doesn't exist if there's no revenue.
Yeah. The revenue to a business is air to a person. You literally can't exist without it. And so industry knowledge from high level, sales acumen, industry agnostic. And then the third thing is you have to know how to work. Okay. And let's unpack it, because if you're listening, you're thinking, I don't know how to work. And maybe you really do. But we would describe work not as I know how to do showings. I know how to do listing presentations. That's not what we're talking about. That's surface level, whatever. That's more like subject matter expertise. What we're talking about, we actually unpacked about 3 episodes ago with Brian Harbin, and he talks a lot about grit and the ability to sustain and perform even under really poor circumstances, being better than the bad calls, if you're a sports fan, being able to, on a very practical level, understanding what it's like to not eat breakfast, not eat lunch, and maybe grab a dinner, right?
Yeah.
And I say that and people are rolling their eyes, but that's what we're talking about. We're actually talking about being able to commit, being able to stay focused, being able to stay present, being able to give the best of yourself, even when you're super hangry, for example.
But Dave, that doesn't sound very balanced.
Hey, let me just drop this real quick. We don't give a shit about balance. We really don't. We give a lot of shits about what we call the better life.
Yep.
But really the whole, I mean, I know we're kind of ad-libbing here, but that, the whole idea of everything has to be balanced. Well, guess what? It's not. And nor is it, for example, when you have kids.
Right.
It's not balanced.
Yeah.
It is not. Like, you give of yourself, for the parents that are listening, you give of yourself to a fault, to a very, very unbalanced degree, in order to bring another human being into existence and making them a productive member of society. And so
excellence naturally requires some sacrifice.
Yeah, excellence and balance in the very beginning, at least, they're not friends.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
And when you talk about work and you talk about grit, I think of summarizing that as it's the habit of getting yourself to do things you don't feel like doing when they need to be done.
Yes, 100%. I can't remember who the author was, but it's the common denominator of success.
Yeah.
Which is
Albert Gray.
Albert Gray.
Yep.
Which is essentially, and this is another kind of mic drop moment.
That's
not
a gem.
us.
If you haven't read that, go Google it. You can find a free PDF copy of his talk online. It's
unbelievable.
Gold.
Yeah, and it's short. It's like a 5-minute read. But his synopsis is, listen, successful people do things that unsuccessful people are unwilling to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, that's his whole speech.
Yep. That's it. That's the common denominator.
Hey, it's the shortest TED Talk ever.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Like, it's the common denominator of success.
That's right. And then he goes into like, what are the things that people naturally don't like to do? And it's all the same stuff. There's 4 different categories. Go read it.
Right.
But yeah, and it's interesting. We had this epiphany while we were talking, like, all work can be broken down into, you're either creating something new, right? You're creating something that didn't previously exist, or you're redeeming something that does exist. And when we say redeem, that's kind of an Old Testament word, if you will, right? But when we talk about redeeming, it's taking something that already exists and making it better than it was when you found it, right? And so we talked about, like, in the work of real estate day to day, an advisor would be, their redemptive work would be taking their client from the situation they're in to a better situation.
Yeah. Right?
Like, I know it sounds crazy, but you're redeeming their situation, you're redeeming the space that they happen to call home.
Yeah.
Right. And I get not every real estate transaction is a home.
Sure.
Right. It could be a second home, a rental property of an investment. Right. So I'm not trying to get overly, but like, that's just one example of like, what are you guys talking about when you say redeem? But it's like, you're either creating you're going out and finding a client that didn't exist in your world before you got to work. Right. Or you're taking an existing client to a better situation, which is a redemptive process.
That's it.
Right. And all work falls into one of those 2 categories.
Yeah. It's either, like you said, creation or redemption, one of the 2. It's making it better or creating it from scratch.
Yep. And that should be a good litmus test for staying out of the mode of busy work or going through the motions, like doing things for the sake of, quote unquote, staying busy or looking busy instead of actually being effective. And more effective when we're creating or redeeming. Yeah,
and maybe just a sidestep for our own community. If you're listening and you're at Thrive and you're part of the Thrive community, we're a business that helps people get further faster, fundamentally in the beginning at least, with leads, with online leads.
Yeah,
and that can get really old really quick. It can get exhausting. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of reaction. It's a lot of unknown. It's a lot of brain damage. But if you're thinking about it through the lens of what you're saying, which is, am I creating value for this person, or am I adding value? Am I making something better? That's pretty cool. That's pretty motivating. Looking at it through that worldview and that lens of, I'm doing one of those 2 things. If I'm ever not doing one of those 2 things, then I should check myself, because what are we really doing?
Well, and that's the beauty of leads, is it's a insane hack to the creation process. Like, if you didn't have that lead, the time and the money you'd have to invest to go create that relationship that didn't previously exist is insane.
It's expensive both in terms of calendar and checkbook.
That's right. That it is insane.
Yeah.
So do you want to shift into kind of phase 3, which is really the meat
I think so. Yeah. Maybe a quick recap is good. So, just naming first that our industry, real estate in particular, is not good at helping people build businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And what we mean by businesses is not necessarily a logo and a website and a name. It could be a phantom or a silent business, and which is actually more common in our world anyway. And I think in most people's worlds than not. You don't have to have a storefront. You don't have to have a storefront in order to have a highly successful business.
Right.
And then we talked about just the 3 phases: industry knowledge from a high level, sales acumen, and understanding how to work. Right. Those 3 things have to be in place and have to be mastered before we get to these.
That's right. And now once those things are there, now we can access this list of these other 8 things.
Yes.
So run through these 8 things real quick. And then there's 3 that we're going to spend the majority of our time on.
Yep, exactly. So here they are. If you're taking notes or listening and kind of logging mental notes.
Okay, boomer. Who takes notes anymore?
What's a note? Number 1 in this transition into having a business, number 1 is you have to have a sales process. In other words, you have to be able to generate revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we've referenced it earlier. Again, revenue to a business is air to a human being. You can't go very long without it. Everything falls apart. Employees go away. People aren't interested anymore. It's all about revenue. And if you're thinking, oh, geez, that sounds awfully corporate. Well, that's just the facts.
It is what it is.
You just have to have money, right? I mean, think about your own personhood, or if you're married, think about your own marriage. You have to have income. And likewise, a business has to have revenue. Number 2 is you need to have long-term goals. You need to have a plan, a map, a vision. Where are you going? And kind of how are you getting there? So that long-term picture, you have to have that. Number 3, you have to have a schedule. And this is kind of a big one because particularly in our industry in real estate, when you're transitioning, most people are transitioning into real estate either from a W-2 job or a 1099 job.
Mm-hmm.
If you're transitioning from a W-2 job, it's even worse because it's harder, I should say, because you've already been told what you need to do, when you need to start, when you can end. You've been told all that, which is why you probably quit your job because you don't want to be told anymore. But the hard news is now you have to tell yourself when to start, when to end.
Yeah.
You have to wear the employer hat and the employee hat. And it's a very, very, very difficult thing to do that not many people actually can master.
Yep.
And so that's the schedule piece.
And this is one of the big 3 we're going to come back to.
This is one of the, exactly.
As we would often say it, most people love the idea of being their own boss. Most people are really bad at being their own boss. They need some training. They need some help creating structure for themselves and then keeping themselves accountable to that, because it's hard. That's one of the hardest parts about, being self-employed.
It's difficult. Yeah.
Yep. Number 4.
That's number 3. So number 4 is any business has to have stats or metrics tracking.
Mm-hmm. A scoreboard.
Yeah, a scoreboard of some kind, and which is funny in real estate because I think a lot of times people, like in our company, and I think in other companies, some people are averse to that because they're thinking, unfortunately, I got into real estate so that I didn't have to have someone showing me, how I was performing. But the reality is, if you're in a straight commission job, which real estate is, you need to track your metrics. You need to know what your gaps are, what your strengths are, so that you can capitalize on your strengths and do more of them and fill in your gaps and make more revenue.
Yep.
It goes back to number 1. You need to be able to do that. There's no way to do that without stats. Nobody's ever lost a considerable amount of weight or put on a considerable amount of muscle mass without tracking stats.
Yeah,
Nobody's ever done that.
It gives you some level of insight and maybe not control, but influence over your business, right? When your stats allow you to run your business very intentionally, it allows you to see what you're doing well. It allows you to see what you're not doing well and where you might need to make some improvements, right? But it's feedback. Like stats are essentially your feedback loop.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. So that's number 4. Number 5 is training and personal development. If you're going to have a business, you have to have those 2 things, training and personal development at some level. Number 6 is budgeting, financial projections, some type of financial plan. You got to be able to take your
taxes, accounting.
Taxes and accounting are definitely
whatever you want to call all of that. That's number 6.
Yeah, like what's the system when you get in our world, when you get a commission check, again, revenue, when you get that revenue, what happens to that? And is it the same every single time, or is it just ad hoc?
Yep.
That's a big difference.
And this is also one of the big three that we're going to come back to.
We'll come back to that. Yep. And then number 7 is supplies. And that's just a huge category, right? So every business has technology needs. In real estate, you have to have a vehicle, right? You have to have collateral. You have to have printouts. In our world, you have to have buyer presentations, listing presentations, business cards. You need to have a website of some kind.
Yeah. You need signage.
Yeah, you need to have some supplies, essentially. And then lastly, the number 8 is you got to have an ownership mindset. You have to be able to identify that which you and you alone can uniquely deliver, meaning, hey, I could eventually outsource everything except for 2 or 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my delivery into this business. And that is going to take shape differently over time. In the beginning, your unique ability is revenue generation.
Yeah. Because you're the only person that exists in your business.
That's it.
So if you don't do it, you don't have a business because there's no revenue.
There's no revenue. And if there's no revenue, there's no business. Yeah.
Which by the way, just again, to not make people feel guilty as we go through some of these things is just think about that for a second. If your primary role is, I'm the only one in this business, so I have to generate all the revenue, there's not a lot of time or mental energy bandwidth to dedicate to these other things.
Right.
Which is why we're going through this, so that somebody can be driving in the car, listening, and then maybe come back and reference some of these things. But to be learning some of these things because there's so little margin to pick up other business skills when so much of your time is dedicated to revenue generation. Right. You think about for you personally, I mean, we didn't talk about this, but think about for you personally, when you got into real estate, like how long it took before you felt like you could pick your head up and actually take a breath of fresh air and like pause and breathe for a second.
Yeah. I mean, I mastered all this like in a month.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So we had to just add a little levity into this for a hot second.
Too serious.
No, it's a great question. I mean, so 2009 to end of 2015. So it's like 6 years.
Yeah.
Of
just grinding to create the revenue.
Just straight grit.
Yep.
I mean, just money. It's got to come in, and it's not all about the money. I actually wasn't keeping a lot of it at that time, and so
you could have used some of this stuff.
Yeah, I would have loved this. So revenue was. I just stopped there. I mean, it was all of that, and honestly, I say this, and people they could roll their eyes or whatever, but it's true. If a structure like our ecosystem, our environment, our company, Thrive, had existed, I would have gotten way further, way faster.
Right.
I would not be 49 years old doing what I'm doing. And hey, I love what I'm doing at this point. I mean, it's fantastic. I have zero regrets. But the fact is that if I had understood some of these concepts and actually paid attention and engaged some of them, then it would have been even further.
That's right.
Even faster, right? And so no regrets, but it's like, this is real life stuff. And so for those first years, you grind. It's all about revenue. It's all about making ends meet. It's all about making sure that your household is the business at that point. Like that's what it is, right?
Right.
But moving through these and moving through these 8 stages or these 8 components of a business, running a business like a business, huge. It's massive. And I'll say this too, the best companies in real estate and the best teams, and we know most of them across the nation at this point.
There's not very many.
There's not very many, unfortunately. The best ones though, and there's quite a few we could name right now and actually like promote them, but the best ones deliver the vast majority of these 8 things.
Yeah, which is why we're only talking about 3 of them, because they're the 3 hardest ones to deliver.
Yeah, these are the 3 that we don't deliver.
Well, that's right. And it's funny because if you look at the really good ones, a lot of them do some training around this because they do realize like there's a huge gap.
Yeah.
There's a huge need for this.
Yeah.
Once people get into the business, they get their legs underneath them. I'm going to say like roughly 6 transactions.
Yeah.
Right. And they've developed some skills, some confidence. They've got some money in the bank and they can sort of take a breath, right? And go, okay, like, I don't suck anymore.
Yeah.
right? And they can start looking ahead at like those first few months, you're just trying to get by.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. And then you can shift into like, okay, what do I got to do to get ahead? So
get some margin.
Let's start with number 2, because if you look at, let's call it whatever long-term goals, I like what you said.